The Division franchise has always had a deeply rooted duality of how to portray its image. It has been there from the inception of the franchise, and it continues to struggle with itself. How do you create the universe of the Division? Showcase the story, the lore, those base human struggles for existence, while attempting to channel it through multiple avenues, and ever since the first game's release back in 2016, this has always been the case. What's going on, everybody? My name is LtBuzzLitebeer, and today I wanted to discuss the forgotten mode of the Division, share some of my experiences, and even lay out some facts accumulated over years of discussions. But before we get started, I wanted to thank you all again for the awesome levels of continued support. The channel is now less than 6,000 subs away from hitting 100,000, and I owe it all to you. In case you aren't yet a sub, please smash that big, beautiful subscribe button for more intensive Division content, and don't forget to ring the bell to stay up to date on all my latest uploads. I've mentioned it quite a bit in my previous Division videos, but I was playing Division 1, the OG game, from the minute it went live in North America, and I haven't stopped playing it ever since. Now, my time has been spread over the Division 1, 2, and various NDA playtests, and between it all, we're talking about thousands of hours spent in this universe. But one fact has remained constant over the course of this franchise's life cycle, that being, the Division is a game that is in a never-ending battle with itself. Call it whatever you like, even a civil war if you want to, but it is this dual existence that has created some of the most intense, shocking, and for me, fondest memories the franchise has ever produced. You see, the Division, I don't know, how could I put this? It lives a dual life. Bruce Wayne by day, Batman by night. One is civil, refined, and dominates the bulk of the existence, while the other is primal, brutal, final, and wildly intoxicating. Now, I can hear some of you right now, what in the hell is Buzz talking about? Duality? Bruce Wayne and Batman? Okay, here you go. Simple breakdown time. I'm talking about the dual existence of PvE and PvP. That dual existence that the Division lives with and struggles against each and every day. One is known, one is largely forgotten. Now, before I lose some of you because I just said the PvP word, hear me out. I frequently get tagged over on Twitter, receive comments on my Division uploads, and all sorts of various DMs concerning PvP, and even though I don't PvP in the Division any longer, let me rephrase that, I don't actively PvP any longer, I still stay up to date on all the goings-on within the community. And while we're on the topic, let's take a look at the state of PvP within the franchise because, believe it or not, PvE and PvP are interconnected. They are tightly woven together like a DNA strand. When one is healthy, so is the other, and vice versa. If we're going to talk about PvP, we might as well start at the beginning with the Division 1. And even to this day, I still see the Dark Zone populated with players, even at odd times, and I play on PC, which has the smallest cross-section of players. There's some PvP going on in there, there's some 1v1s, huge manhunts, agents just looking to experience the area and farm some gear, some try-hards, clans, I mean, you name it, it's in there. Now, when I'm looking for a high-intensity experience outside of queuing up for PvP survival, which has so many positives except that it is not time-friendly. Anyways, when I want intensity, short bursts, tons of action, I hop the wall into the DZ and just let it all fly. Now, third-person PvP has never been my strong suit. There's just something about the camera rotations and point of view that don't settle with me. You've probably seen my Battlefield uploads and know that FPS is my real thing, but there's just something about hopping the wall into the DZ that gets the adrenaline dripping out of my eyes and ears. Now, granted, I don't enter the Dark Zone nearly as much as I used to. I could lay out 1,000 excuses why not, but they're just that, excuses. I just thought of this while scripting this video, but when I think back to my time spent either in Div 1 or Div 2, I can't really remember any of those PvE encounters. I mean, I remember them more as scenes with some of the players involved and just generalized feelings, but PvP, Those wild shootouts in the original Dark Zone, those are as fresh a memory as they could be, almost like it happened yesterday. I remember squatting up with Matt Goes Buck, Armor for Core, Smokey, and just going buck wild rogue. The toxic spew and filth the players were yelling at us as we bodied them repeatedly. I remember PvP with Cal, the Padrone, and Salty Paul, getting chased by a group of would-be rogues as I led them on a wild goose chase through the entire DZ, just setting off fake extractions all over the place to confuse them. And by the way, I ended up extracting my gear on that one, so chalk one up for Buzz. Also, there's plenty of other players that I haven't named, experiences that are just too numerous to rattle off, and can I just mention that some of the longest lasting friendships I have made in this franchise have been random players I have stumbled into while in the DZ. And can I say, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Survival PvP, which just saying those words together makes me want to boot up that game mode. Later on in Div 1's lifecycle, we got Last Stand and Skirmish. I like those. They were okay for me, but just couldn't match the unpredictability or intensity I found in the chaos of the original DZ. And just for the record, I preferred the Dark Zone prior to Rogue 2.0. Don't know what I'm talking about? Look it up, because that was some wild. My time with Division 2 PvP is actually a much shorter conversation. I got to experience it while at a Red Storm test 3 or 4 months prior to Division 2 launching, and really after about 5 minutes, I knew deep down it just wasn't for me. The color palette, the slower movements, wrapping instead of insta-heals, no ultimates or timing really involved to proc your buffs, it just didn't look or feel the same to me. Now, no offense to any of you out there that love Division 2 PvP, it just wasn't something I have wanted to do. Now, one area that has always troubled me was the anti-cheat, lack of it, how easy it is to skirt around, I mean, you name it. I remember entering DZ2 at Coward's Corner and getting Sticky Bomb insta-killed, which happens, you know, but this player that killed me happened to be in DZ6. So yeah. I've seen flying players with 1 bazillion times speed boost so they run around like Sonic the Hedgehog. More recently, I've tried entering the Division 2 Dark Zones when there is targeted loot for an item I would like, but going in there now, especially on PC, is just a death sentence. I've posted videos of me getting killed by players rapid firing a nemesis through buildings and from across the DZ. You report them, they come back. It's like they don't get banned or just boot up another alternate account, and frankly, I play games to have fun, not to police and report players for using hacks, especially when it is so blatantly obvious. Moving on, and upcoming titles for the franchise that will feature some form of PvP are both Heartland and Resurgence. Now, Heartland looks to continue that PvEVP experience, much in the same vein as the original Division 1 survival formula, while Resurgence PvP is actually devoid of any information. Their comms team has announced and confirmed this free-to-play mobile title will have some form of PvP, Dark Zone, and more, but that is all that is known at this time. Now, for those of you who refuse to PvP in the Division, first off, I understand it's not for everyone. When I've posted previous videos covering PvP or upcoming PvP titles, I frequently see responses like, "Nope, PvP, I'm out." And listen, I get it, it's not for everyone. For me, that's my background, competitive online squad-based shooters. Again, no shame in saying no to it. But for every player out there just drawing a firm line in the sand, because yeah, there are very few cross populations occurring. By the way, you either PvE, you PvP, and then there's this little slice that does both. But the point I'm trying to reach is that Bruce Wayne needs Batman and vice versa. PvE needs PvP, and the opposite if the game and franchise is to continue to exist. You see, they feed off of each other. Mechanics and ideas are tested out in PvP and then trickle into PvE, and the same could be said for PvE fundamentals crossing into the Dark Zone, etc. So how does Massive, or whatever studio like Red Storm, currently working on Heartland, continue and grow the existence of PvP in this franchise? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is the $1 million question. Now, this may hit some of you right in the chest, but The Division is, and always will be, a PvE-focused game, with PvP more as an attachment. Call it an extension. No offense to any hardcore PvPers out there, but those are the cold hard facts. Now, not that I ever want to see this happen, but for example, if The Division suddenly removed all PvP from the game, sure, the player base would take a bit of a dip, but probably a lot less than one would expect. Except for PvP survival. Remove that and there's going to be straight up riots in the street. But back to the topic, and it's important to understand that each facet, PvE and PvP, feed each other. Players buy the game for the campaign, they get interested, they want to take it to the next level. Some would even call it the end game, and so they hop the wall, toggle up, and kick it up a notch. Other players get involved straight into the PvP arena, and then eventually join those light zone activities. Maybe to boss farm, or when there's targeted loot they want or need, made so much more accessible by Countdown and the Summit. I personally believe that The Division functions better with PvP staying integrated into the gaming loop, but man, it needs some heavy refinement. Now, there are many limitations, either technical or the studio's unwillingness to make the necessary adjustments, but the style of PvP I currently see in The Division 2 just doesn't cut it. Gear and balancing issues abound, and I've often floated the idea of PvP-specific gear and PvE gear, and those two sets do not cross borders. The studio has a PvP in one folder and has PvE in the other folder, and that's it. Final. Game over. This way, balancing can be handled separately. So they've got problems with certain gear sets or skills that are loved by the PvE community and hated by the PvP crowd. Well, with that kind of setup, you could tune them differently. No more PvE players pointing fingers at the PvPers for getting their favorite gear nerfed and vice versa. Now, I personally like the faster paced movements and insta-heal capabilities like we had in Division 1. Maybe a controversial idea there, but I'd like to see that return. TTK could be handled independently of PvE to make it work for the majority of PvPers. Now, it's never going to be perfect for every player, but at least gear and balancing wouldn't be so damn integral to get that balance right. I think it's safe to say the 3DZ experiment didn't pan out. The environment and tone of DC couldn't match that of the cold, dark winter of NYC. It was that large, dog-eat-dog world that attracted so many players, even those that had no interest in the PvE content from the original Division game. That DZ was frightening, intense, and you had to be super focused when going in there. All feelings I don't get when I go into the DZ in the Division 2. So here's my last topic for today, and it comes down to the hardcore PvP crowd for the franchise, because these ladies and gentlemen are extremely vocal and dedicated to their mode, the largely forgotten mode for the Division. Now, in the past, we've heard Yannick respond to stream chat questions about revamping PvP for the Division 2 simply with an answer that they don't have the manpower to give it the necessary attention, leaving all of you out there still trying to fight off skill builds, scrapnel traps, fire stickies, and corner glitchers. You see, I do know PvP. But anyway, here's some numbers for you. I posted a poll on my channel last night asking point blank, what percentage of the player base do you think actively participates in Division PvP? At this point, the poll is about 15 hours old and has received 1,400 votes, with 74% of you stating you think less than 10% of the player base participates in PvP. And a little hint here for you, it's actually way less than that, but more in a minute. Take a look at this. Remember this artwork we got from the Division team back in March 2021? The fact that there were 40 million players? Now, I know that's over a year old, but if we take that 40 million and make a huge assumption that those 40 million accounts are all active and participating in the game loop, at 10%, which is what my poll is showing as the clear winner, that's roughly 4 million players that this poll feels actively participate in PvP. In reality, and this is information I obtained eons ago, but I don't think it will have fluctuated all that much, but the figure I got was less than 5% of the player base actively participated in PvP. Rough math, and that 4 million players drops down to less than 2 million, which still sounds like a ton of players, but remember that is spread across all platforms and is worldwide. Also, that's based on the studio delivered 40 million player count, which I would guess is on the high side, making that 2 million active players in PvP that much smaller. Ever wonder why you were constantly running into the same 5 to 10 players in the DZ day after day? Well, here's one of the contributing factors. Now, despite these rather sobering facts about player counts, and now maybe it is starting to resonate why Ubi or the studios involved aren't willing to drop the dollars necessary into PvP content, not hating, just stating reality, okay, despite all that, there is a way forward that can breathe new life into the community, but it will take major revamps and development dollars. Now, I've touched on a few of these in my commentary. One massive area, PvP specific gear, add on a stat tracker, commendations, add incentives, and goals to chase. But I think without a doubt, this forgotten mode needs content. More areas, more modes, more everything. Repurpose Kenley College into an indoor PvP arena like Last Stand, domination on a large scale. How about a Battlefield-style gun game that starts you off with just a pistol, and as you achieve kills, you automatically progress up to a more powerful weapon? Turn a portion or the whole NYC Warlords map into one giant dark zone. You could even just have a bare bones mode. Armor and guns, no perks, no gear sets, no skills, just run what you brung. I don't know if any of this will ever come to fruition. Ever since those early Division 1 days of hopping the wall, I feel the mode has lost much of its bite, at least it has for me. But the fact remains, Bruce Wayne needs Batman because one cannot exist without the other. But right now, the percentage imbalance of players involved versus total players is just so badly skewed. Bruce Wayne is around over 90% of the time, pushing Batman over into the shadows. The potential is there. In fact, I think the potential for PvP is limitless within the Division universe. It just hasn't had the backing to really evolve. And for every PvE only player out there screaming at your screens right now, trust me, you need PvP. Maybe you will never play the mode for yourself, but it is there to provide an additional Division experience. It helps attract players into the fold and keep them interested. With the story mode now showing serious signs of life, especially after Season 9, it is time to really start diving into everything PvP needs to succeed and making it happen. Lots of ideas, thoughts, and personal memories spread over the course of this one today, but I appreciate you taking the time to listen in. Leave me a comment below. Anything Division PvP is fair game, but do me a favor, let's keep the cheater discussions down a couple notches. Please take a moment to smash that sub button and ring the bell to receive all my future upload alerts. If you could take a few seconds more to rate and or share this video, it would be greatly appreciated. Remember, you can find and follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and over on my community Discord server, now 6,000 members strong. Links to all my socials in the video description below, including an open Discord invite link. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.